It's Saturday morning and we're back at the tiny house. It's still chilly, but thankfully the snow is pretty much all gone. And you can see that nature is starting to wake up from her long slumber. Today I want to share my kitchen and talk about the layout and design. As you first walk into the house, you'll see the kitchen at the back, but let me show you the floor plan so you can get a better sense of the space. As you come into the kitchen from the living area, there's an open pantry on the right, a refrigerator on the other side, and then next to that there's a base cabinet, the range with an oven, a stretch of countertop along here with cabinetry below, and the sink in this corner. And then above that there's open shelving here, in this corner, and another shelf above the fridge. The whole size of the kitchen is pretty small. It's about 7.5 feet wide by 6.5 feet deep. And then through this pocket door here is the tiny bathroom with a shower, toilet, and a little sink below the window. The starting point for the material palette was this black-brown quartz countertop I found at a salvage shop. For the backsplash, I used simple, inexpensive subway tile. I still haven't grouted it yet, but I'm planning to go with a dark gray or black color. I kind of have a thing for wall faucets, so I had to include one here. This one is from an online restaurant supply store. The sink is from IKEA, and it came with a cutting board that fits on top of it, so we use this whenever we need more counter space when we're cooking. Most of the base cabinets are from IKEA as well, just simple white panels, except this narrow end cabinet, which was also salvaged. It's a different style, which makes for a quirky design detail, but it's very useful for storing cutting boards and sheet pans. For the appliances, we have a 24-inch wide fridge and freezer that runs off of propane since we're off the grid and don't have power. This was one of our splurge items, along with the range that is also 24 inches wide and has batteries that power the ignition for the burners and the oven. Usually kitchen ranges are 30 inches in width, but I find that 24 is nice for a smaller space since it's easier to fit in, but also it's large enough to be just as functional. I've made Thanksgiving dinner on this stove. The goal with the layout was to make it efficient and functional, so if someone is cooking at the stove, they can reach here for ingredients or here for ingredients, while the other person can stand at the sink with the cutting board, chopping vegetables or whatever. But by maximizing the distance between the two main workstations, it just leaves a little bit more breathing room, which is nice. And one thing I always make sure of when I design a kitchen is to avoid having the fridge and stove be right next to each other. Having even a small cabinet here means you have another place to set things, and you can swing pot handles to the side without hitting the fridge. The idea here was to maximize efficiency, so we've used a wall magnet for the knives, and I used a little piece of leftover trim to make a shelf for spices. For the lighting, we used more spotlights from IKEA, which work really well. Instead of upper cabinets, I decided to go with open shelves. This was a great way to save money, as upper cabinets would have been quite a bit more expensive. The one thing I'm not a fan of is the look of the shelf boards themselves. The stain color doesn't really work well with the rest of the finishes in the house, so I've decided to replace them. I bought some new boards and got them prepared before we brought them out to the tiny house. I sanded everything down, first with a coarse grit sandpaper and then a fine one. Next, I applied a wood conditioner, and once that was dry, it was time to move on to applying the stain. For these, I wanted to go with a pickling stain, which will give the boards a whitewashed appearance. You just simply paint it on, wait a couple of minutes, and then wipe it off. Easy. So all that's left to do now is trim them to size and replace the existing shelves. Once I removed all of the old shelf boards, it was time to fire up Big Bertha, the generator. She was a gift from my sister a couple of summers ago. So all I have to do is measure, mark, and cut the pieces to size. And then I just went back and used the new boards in the same brackets. Now with that done, it's time to put everything back on the shelves, and I figure this is a good opportunity to rearrange a few things. I really like how the new shelves turned out. The light colored wood really works well with the rest of the palette, and I especially love how the white items look on the shelves. And we finished just in time. It started raining right as we put all the tools away. So now it's time to grab some ingredients from the pantry and make dinner. Speaking of the pantry, one thing I like about it is that it's not immediately obvious when you first come into the house, but from this angle you can see just how many items are stored here. We used 2x12s to build it, just like we did with the bookshelves, and having the storage go from the floor to the ceiling really makes the most of this small area. I have to say, for as small as this kitchen is, it's a joy to cook in. It's perfect for chopping lots of onions, and crying, and making stuff like tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner. And then in the morning, I really enjoy having a cup of coffee next to the fire. Once we're fully awake, it's time to start on breakfast. Even simple meals seem to be more delicious out here. And even if we can't see the mountains when the clouds roll in, it's still nice to look outside and get excited for springtime. I really love my little kitchen, even if there's still a few tasks that need to be done. The finishes are all inexpensive, but I think they look stylish. It might look a little cluttered with the open shelves and the hanging pots, but I think there's a certain kind of charm to that. And what could be better than a nice view while you cook? Now that the cleanup is done, it's time to say goodbye for now. Next time I'll show you what's behind this old salvage door. But in the meantime, if you haven't seen my first tiny house video, then please check it out. Until next time.